The world of e-commerce can be tricky, and that's why you need the experts to help take you to the next level. This is Delivering E-commerce. Delivering E-commerce. You'll hear from leaders and industry experts from around the globe, letting you in on their stories and journeys. Your host has 25 years in the retail industry and has been leading the strategy and development of e-commerce sites for 17 years, working with Walmart, Newegg, Big Al's, Ren's Pets, and Home Hardware. We think he may be qualified. This is Delivering E-commerce. And this is Chris Parsons.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Delivering E-commerce. I'm your host, Chris Parsons, and I'm excited today to bring to you my friend and guest, Joseph McConellogue. And welcome, Joseph. It's really nice to have you here with us today.
Hey, Chris, thanks so much for having me on. Congratulations on the new podcast. This is very exciting.
Yeah, and I really greatly appreciate you being the first person on the show. Hopefully there's many more and you'll be on many more times. Give the audience some breadth and depth about yourself, not only from your work experience, but overall who you are. What did you want to be when you grew up, and how did you end up where you are today? So let's start there, and then we'll take it from there.
Yes, I think most importantly, I am a husband and father of 3 kids. I've got 3 kids under 7. My son is 7. I've got a daughter that's 5.5 and another daughter that's 2.5.
You're not only a father, you're a hero.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I try to be. You may hear some screaming in the background. That's all it is. They're just having fun. From a career standpoint, this is my 20th year in digital advertising. I just celebrated my 20th anniversary. I started way back doing graphic design and web design, and kind of evolved away from developing websites and moving more towards driving traffic to them. And then Google Ads came out. And I became obsessed with Google Ads, and then Facebook became a huge thing. I got obsessed with Facebook ads, and that's kind of progressed on. Every 2 or 3 years, I feel like I'm adding on a different skill set. And now over 20 years, I've been able to build my career through large agency holding companies like WPP and IPG. And now I'm off on my own with my own e-commerce consultancy, e-commerce focused consultancy, Round 2 Digital.
So as you grew in your career, what were some of the things that you had a passion for and you had to give up in order to make it to the next level, and you wish I could still do some of those things today?
Yeah, so it's interesting for me is, with a lot of my experience, I was lucky enough that I could, develop as a craft expert, right? So I was able to, in my career, spend a lot of time in platform, right? So whether it was Google Ads or Facebook Ads Manager or within, affiliate channels or feed management platforms, I spent a lot of my career in those platforms, getting to know how to pull the levers, essentially, right? So thinking about things beyond just the strategy and the theory of it, but actually getting that practical experience, right? And even to this day, like getting into those accounts is fun and exciting for me.
So take me to, what are those levers? What are some of those levers that you would pull?
Well, if I think about, let's focus on e-commerce, for example, right? A lot of our clients are selling direct to consumer, so they're selling on their own platforms, essentially. Mm-hmm. Even being able to get in and take a look at how a product feed is performing. How are we getting that product feed from homehardware.ca, for example, into Facebook or into Google or into your affiliate channels, right? Being able to have that middle point with a Feedonomics or a similar tool, be able to get in there and make tweaks and push those out to the platforms is incredibly satisfying for me, at least.
Yeah, it's funny.
I don't spend too much time in the platforms, but enough that I can, keep up with it.
Right. Understood. You mentioned Feedonomics. I've used them a couple of times now, and you can either use them to scrape your site, or you can get the total integration. What I find though is in retail, we still have a lot of legacy systems, and those systems don't have a lot of great content to feed these guys. And hopefully, you're in the US, so maybe it's a little bit more progressed. In Canada, I still find a lot of our retailers and our legacy systems, we're still fighting to get that good content being extracted so we can feed those affiliate networks and and publishing websites. How do you find it in US?
It's the same. It's exactly the same. It's the battles that you just described in Canada, the same battles that we have in the U.S., right? And as a Canadian expat, I've only been in the U.S. for 5 years, so I'm very familiar with the Canadian challenges and now very familiar with the U.S. challenges as well. But it's important, for any e-commerce client that's selling direct to consumer, or even through e-retailers, right? If you're using a PIMS or a Salsify or something along those lines, it's incredibly important to have that middle step, something between your site and the platforms that you're using to generate demand, so you can optimize that content and make sure that it's appropriate for all the channels that you're using.
And you're familiar with the term of A+ content, obviously, and how Amazon has really dug their teeth into that. From other retailers and your clients, how do you get them to engage and really support that concept of driving good content and putting that value into the content? A lot of people think you just put up a website and all of a sudden people will find your products. But, if the content is not there and they can't research and they can't, they already lose the touch and feel of a product. If that content is not strong online, how do you get a retailer to really buy into that concept? Because it's costly.
It can be costly for sure. You're right. And I think there are numerous case studies, right, from our own clients or Profitero or a number of different Salsify. Like there's case studies galore that show the value when you have improved product detail page content, whether that's traditional text or images or right through to A+ content, right? But what we always suggest is let's start small, start a test, pick a handful of priority SKUs and see what can be done to create those. Because normally what we see is if the A+ content is strong, then we'll see that progression in conversion rate, right? And if it's paying for itself, which it probably will if the content is good, then that's when you can start expanding the program out.
I love how you said, let's break it down into, let's start small. 80-20 rule is so true in retail, of 20% of those items doing 80% of your volume.
Sure.
So let's start on those and get those right. It's a smart move. When you meet with clients today, what I find with agencies and consultants, they come in with a solution in mind and they present that solution, even though they haven't qualified and understood from a retail perspective what you really truly need. They kind of make it as it's a one size fits all. And it's, a lot of times I tell my team when they're talking to an agency for the first time or any provider that can offer some help, is to make sure you have a 15-20 minute qualifying meeting to really let that partner understand where we're at in our maturity, so then they can come back with thoughtful recommendations. How do you approach it?
Yeah, you're absolutely bang on, right? Certainly, there's a lot of preconceived notions in the industry, right? That one size fits all, or that one strategy is going to work, and we know that's not the case, right? So you have to think about things strategically, right? And in order to be able to do that, you have to ask the right questions, right? You have to understand, where a brand is today, why they're there today, understand where they want to go in the future, and that's going to help determine how to build out the plan, the roadmap to get there, right? Identifying the priorities, ultimately building that roadmap to success. But there's a process that you have to go through. You can't just walk in and say, this is our way of how we do things. It's going to work for you, because it's probably not going to be true.
100%. And earlier when we were chatting last week, you talked about, putting your money where your mouth is, right? Like putting the proof there and saying, we're going to deliver. And from your business, you say it's based on actual results. Talk to me about that, because I think that's so important. A lot of times when I'm working with an agency, they'll promise me a 35% lift on my conversion or X amount more traffic. And then when it doesn't happen, there's no accountability. And to me, it's a partnership. And if I'm going to grow with you, we need to drive results together. And it's not just about the promise that you made me 6 months ago when we kicked off the project. It's about what are we delivering together so we can then double down the next time.
Yeah, that's right. And at Round Two Digital, like everything that we do, every agreement that we have with our clients has some sort of pay for performance element to it, right? That's part of our culture. It's part of it's growing up within WPP and IPG. That was always something that was discussed, but it was very hard to get past the line, right? So legal teams, procurement teams, they would be very much against pay for performance modeling because it's difficult to project, right?
Right.
Procurement teams have a difficult time projecting those things, right? But for us, I mean, what we're able to do is it's exactly like you said a few minutes ago, right? It's coming in and really being able to analyze where a brand is today and understand what is the real potential upside there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if a brand is doing a fantastic job, then maybe there isn't a ton of potential upside there, right? But if a brand, if you're able to go through and audit and analyze all the different channels that are impacting e-commerce, then you should be able to say, this is how strong you are in this channel, in paid search and in paid social and feed management and e-retail and in display and video and so on, and say, we think that there's 5% here. We think that there's 25% there. We go through a full audit, right? Essentially an assessment to determine where the brand is today versus where we think we can take them. And then we structure a pay for performance deal that's based on those numbers, right? So we have to be realistic about it, but we're putting our skin in the game, knowing that, our performance is tied to the actual performance of our clients.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, whenever I hear an agency, a consultant team willing to do that, to me, it gives me more confidence that they're a true partner and they're just not wanting to get that sales pitch, get that first contract, and then in the background, they're working on their next client. They really want to partner with you and take care of you and grow over the years. So that's good. Good on you. I appreciate you telling that story. Now let's get back into your earlier years, or maybe it's even more recent than when you first started out. I've definitely had many failures in my career that I've learned from. What in your career or just life in general would you say has been your biggest failure to date?
I would say professionally, we'll stick with professionally for sure. I would say the biggest failure is I remember this very clearly. My early days at IPG, it was probably 2011 or 2012. Our team was growing like crazy, right? And we were looking for a particular team lead for one of our new divisions that we were launching, and we were in a pretty desperate need to fill this position. And I was still pretty young in my career, right? I'd been in the industry a long time, but I started very young, so I was still very young in my career ultimately. But I pulled the trigger on hiring someone that I shouldn't have, right? Someone that I thought was, a good fit, would probably be able to solve the immediate needs that we have, but there might be some longer term consequences there or challenges. And that I hired this person, and it was, to this day, my biggest failure, my biggest regret, because it made for a lot of really uncomfortable situations. And I would encourage everyone that's listening to this podcast to do not make that same mistake. Take your time hiring. Chris, I'm sure you're hiring for people right now. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
Don't rush it. If you feel like this person cannot walk out your door without you giving them a job offer, they're probably not the right person for that role.
We're definitely hiring. We've grown from about a team of 8 when I started to, I think we're closing in on 30.
Wow.
And today, actually, funny enough that we're doing this today. Today's my 2-year anniversary here. So,
congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
It's flown by, and I joked because I've been working here at Home Hardware for the 2 years, but I've actually been working here in a COVID environment longer than I was in a normal retail environment. So wow. I don't know what a normal home hardware environment really is, because it's been pivot change over and over again. So it'll be interesting when and if we get out of this COVID in the next 6 months, a year perhaps, how things will be for us. But I've been really fortunate to be here, that's for sure. Let's get into I know this audience is all ranges of talent. We've got people that are going to be watching and listening to us that are, very green, just starting out. And then we have a lot of great experts. I'm fortunate enough to be connected to some of the great leaders in especially the Canadian market for sure. But I would love for you to share with an audience any key learnings or best practices that you can really give some nuggets. And I don't want you to give your secret sauce away. I won't ask anyone to do that. And even I got to make sure that I don't share too much. But at the same time, let's help some of these other folks out that could learn from your experience.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, I'm an open book. So if anyone is listening to this and they want to reach out, please do DM me. I'm on Instagram, joseph.mcc. I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me at joseph@round2digital.com. Feel free to reach out. But I think, in terms of advice, when I think about my career, I would say I'm a channel expert in multiple channels, right? When it comes to e-commerce, the challenge with e-commerce is it touches every channel, right? Like there's a paid search strategy, there's a paid social strategy, there's an affiliate strategy, display, SEO. Like I was lucky in my career that, I was given a lot of opportunities to expand, right? So I started as a graphic designer, right? I didn't have to stay a graphic designer my entire life, but I was given an opportunity to check out this Google AdWords thing that came out in the early 2000s, and that became another focus of mine, right? And then, with my friend Jeff Lancaster at LinkedIn, when we were at Outrider 24/7 in WPP together, he gave me the opportunity to, take on social work, right? So I've been given a lot of these opportunities to learn more and to take on new things, right? And I never said no to any of them.
Right.
And to this day, I mean, it's so many terrifying moments in my career where I was coming into something that I had no idea about, right? And had to essentially learn it all from a lot of times an industry that didn't necessarily exist yet, right? Or there wasn't training materials where you could go. So you had to theoretically learn it, but also practically learn it. So I would say when given the opportunity, take the opportunity and run with it as hard as you can.
Yeah, I like that advice, to run with it hard as you can. I think to add some kind of a wish list for anyone that takes on new stuff is to take the time and try. Like if you're going to take on a role, own the role. Learn it yourself. Don't rely on others to just give you all the answers. Go and read books. Go and talk to mentors and other people in the network about it. If you're just going to go to your boss and ask questions nonstop, that boss might as well do the work for you. So, the one thing, I'll share a quick story about myself. I know I really want to dive into you, but when I started out in e-commerce with Walmart, I literally walked into a meeting late and they said, "Hey, do you want to take on building us a website?" And from there, I flew to Bentonville with a book in my hand, HTML for Dummies, and I didn't even know how to code. I had no clue what a website was. I knew what Merc, which was a chat network back then, MIRC, and I used that, and that was the extent of my knowledge of online. And I flew down for a weekend. I read HTML for Dummies. I got Dreamweaver installed on my computer and came back and started figuring out how to code. And I'll tell a further story with another gentleman that I'm going to have on the show, Raheem. Raheem was working for a company called CrossCap, and he actually took time out of his day to help me learn how to code. So he was very influential in my career. But it was finding, no one at Walmart at the time knew how to code, and maybe Christian Harrison on the intranet that he was doing, he was a big supporter of mine as well. But there was nobody doing e-commerce out at Walmart Canada, and like I couldn't go to my boss and say, "Hey, how do I do this?" It was go figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's nice not to have that sink or swim environment anymore, but also I do think that people learn a lot more by actioning stuff themselves. So that would be my advice to folks, is to just get into it.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. And I still think there's a lot of these opportunities that are popping up still to this day, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not necessarily new channels, but TikTok, for example, is an enormous up and coming channel, right?
Right.
Live e-commerce, right? Live commerce is another up and coming channel. So they're not as, enormous as they used to be, but there's still these opportunities to come in and learn and take it on, right? Take on that challenge.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we throw the term around all the time here, omni-channel or integrated retailer, and I don't think anyone's figured that out yet. Like, we know in concept what we want it to be and how we want to be customer centric and make it easy for them to shop, but I don't think anyone's really got a great handle on what truly omni-channel means. And I would encourage anyone to start looking at tactics that would provide a consumer that omni experience, and especially coming out of COVID. The amount of people that didn't shop online and now are online shoppers. There, I said the other day, there's a term I started using is consumers are now going to be a blended shopper. They're going to want to be able to shop online, on their mobile device, in store, and now they've had exposure to all of them. So we have to be ready to let them shop one day in store, one day on their mobile device, depending on their needs. And everyone still likes to interact at store level, so you got to make sure that story is told across all of those different devices or in store as well. In your career, I mean, you reminded me that we had a meeting back in the 2000s. Who else is some of the folks in e-commerce that you've had the opportunity to engage with, and who are some of the mentors or leaders that you would encourage on LinkedIn for the audience, if they're not connected to them, to connect to?
Some of the folks that I really admire and follow regularly, I think there's a few people. One of them is my favorite is Benjamin. I can't pronounce his last name, but I think it's Hennigens. He's an associate director of commerce at Spark Foundry. He's fantastic. He's sharing content every single day. One of my favorites is actually one of the retail transformation experts here, based here in Chicago. Actually, he's another Canadian expat. His name is Jim Okamura. He sits on a foundation called Global E-commerce Leaders Forum. So GELF is their acronym. Jim Okamura, follow him. He's constantly sharing great info. He's setting up webcasts like probably once a month or so, but they're always really great to tune into.
And Jim is one of the most genuine. He is just a delight to sit down. I had the luxury of going to GILF and speaking there one time in New York City.
Yeah.
And, we went to a whiskey bar and had dinner on our first night at the whiskey bar. And I was actually exposed to Nutella on pizza, which is a pretty cool treat. But Jim and that whole group were just true gentlemen. They have so much knowledge about not only North America, but obviously with the name of it globally. They're fantastic folks to be with and around.
Yeah, they are. It's hard to come across people like Jim. You don't meet people like Jim very often, but he's been a huge advocate of mine as well, especially as I've kind of grown my consultancy here in Chicago.
That's great. Good call out. He's a good one, that's for sure.
Totally.
I think you had some questions for me as well.
Yeah, I'd love to, I'd love to hear a little bit about, your background as well, because I know you've been with Home Hardware for a couple of years. You spent a lot of time with Walmart during an incredibly transformative time. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about your time at Ren's. I'd love to hear a bit more about your time at Big Al's, and yeah.
Yeah, Big Al's was great opportunity for me. The Saul family was so generous and took a lot of time allowing me to come in and launch their e-commerce platform. They already had a platform, but take it to another level. And we worked on launching it in the US, and the aquatics industry was interesting. And I will say that three people that stand out was Matt. He's over there running their e-commerce platform right now, but Thomas and Brian, I don't know if you've ever been on the Big Al's YouTube channel. These guys, when I started there, Thomas was in customer service. He took on this extra responsibility, talking about a guy that just took a leap of faith and tried something. He did all of their videos. They're basically here's how videos, and would do live streams like this with suppliers. And those guys really took it to another level, Brian and Thomas, and they really impressed me. Actually, I was talking to Brian the other night about me doing this is kind of because I saw what they were doing and accomplishing, and how important this type of vehicle and venue is for people to interact, which, so I give them kudos for that. And then I had the opportunity to take a role when I left Big Al's. It was to take on an opportunity to create a brand for the first time. Like, I've been really lucky in my career to work with some well-established brands. Like, launching e-commerce for Walmart was exciting and one of the most rewarding things, because I took it from zero to launching a full ship-to-home solution, and it was successful right away. But it was Walmart, and I didn't know if I could replicate that on my own without the big brand behind me. So actually I had a chance to go to newegg.com, launched newegg.com in Canada and launched 8 other countries, which was great. But Big Al's was a significant challenge for me. And then to create a new brand, tidyliving.com, was really thrilling, because it was out of the US, and they manufactured in Shenzhen, China. So it was a really good exposure for me to go and travel a lot. And it was great to be able to, and we focused on a lot of blogs, how-tos, and created content. And it was really great for me to go back grassroots and start over again. And then I think it just made me stronger. So then when I finally had to leave there, just the travel became too much, came back into focused at retail for Ren's. Ren's was short-lived for me, and it was a very tough decision to leave Ren's. And the only reason I did was it was Home Hardware knocking on my door. And I was very fortunate to have an iconic company like this trying to bring me over and be part of this transformation that they're going through. I felt, when I was with Ren's, we were on a great path of success. They're opening up stores like crazy. Scott and the team are amazing. Some of the best people I've ever worked with. And it broke my heart to be able to go into them and give them my notice, which left them in a bad spot. I think now they're better off because of it. They've got some great people over there. And but at the time, it was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had to have. It's one thing leaving a company because you're not happy with your boss, you're not happy with your trajectory on growth, but to leave a company that you actually love and respect everybody there was such an emotional, and I didn't show it to them, but inside to me, it was such an emotional conflict. And but I know I made the right decision for me, because I'm here. We're doing some amazing things with Home Hardware, and you only get so many opportunities to come and launch ship to home now in Canada, because it's kind of table stakes for everyone. But to be able to do that for an iconic brand like Home Hardware, there's no way I could turn that down. I'm very fortunate to be here, and I'm very fortunate they've agreed to let me do my own podcast and grow my personal brand as well. So I've had the luxury of having a lot of great mentors and a lot of great people in my career that just have been so supportive. And I think, I hope that others have the luxury of finding great people to work with and that will be just as supportive, because you really do need those breaks in your career. You can be passionate, like I am passionate. I work hard. I don't even know how many times I will work throughout a weekend and evenings. And but you also do need those breaks in your career and have some of those mentors to take you under the wing. Who in your career has been inspiring to you and really supported your growth?
I've been lucky. I've had some of the best mentors that anyone could ever wish for, right? I think, certainly from my early days, very famous Canadian digital marketer, Jeff Lancaster was, he was my boss for many years of my early career, right? And he taught me a lot of very valuable piece of insight, right? So he was an incredible mentor for me. I also had someone like Harvey Carroll, who was the CEO, the Canadian CEO of IPG Media Brands.
Yep.
I reported directly into as well, long tenured at Labatt. He's now at Figure. He was an incredible advisor and mentor to this day, someone I tap into on a regular basis. And also Tim Ringel. So Tim Ringel was the global CEO of Reprise at IPG when I was there. He's now global CEO at Spring Studios, sits on a number of boards. He's been, an incredible advisor to me, even with my business now. I mean, we probably connect every few weeks as he continues to kind of guide me and give me advice on my career. I think it's incredibly important to identify those people and, show the initiative to connect with those people and stay connected with those people, because every conversation you have with them, you're walking away with something valuable that you didn't know before.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I've been fortunate with my mentors as well. Luke Hume, Tony Fanson at Walmart, to, even today I report into Rob Wallace, VP of Marketing. And it's not the mentorship on the e-commerce side, but it's the mentorship from just being a true professional, how to make sure you are respectful. And I watch him and how he carries himself. And it's just observing guys that are just true gentlemen in the industry, and learning from just observing is I've been fortunate to just be around some great people. And, even when I go and I think about going to e-tail and some of those conferences and, networking with a 10 beer, or, seeing folks like Tara, who's over at the Source, like, just, there's so many great people in here. And if you can have the courage to just reach out to them and connect, and once a quarter have a conversation with these folks, they'll change your career for sure.
Absolutely.
I've had a great time. I see we've been doing this for a while now, so hopefully everyone else is still tuned in and has enjoyed it as much as I have. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. If you have any parting words, anything that you would like to say, again, you mentioned how to connect with you, but it's worth repeating.
Yeah, if anyone, I'd love to connect. Again, I'm an open book. I love connecting with folks and taking what's in my brain and sharing it out. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can reach out to me. My handle on Instagram is joseph.mcc, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just Google my name. It's in the description. Or you can email me at joseph@round2digital.com.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joseph. I really appreciate it. Matt LeBeau is going to be our next guest. He is just another true gentleman in the industry, and people are going to learn a lot from what he's doing. He's got his own company. He's doing sales and marketing, and he's really ramped it up over the last couple of years. So look forward to that conversation. If there's anything that our audience wants to hear from us, please get back to me. Let me know who you're thinking of, who I should have conversations with, what key takeaways you're looking for, whether it's about email, SEO, whatever the topic is. I'll work on it. I've been fortunate enough when I launched Walmart's website to literally work on every aspect of e-commerce, from logistics to development, marketing, email. Not too many guys in the industry get to do all of those things. Some of us become experts on one thing, but I was really, really lucky to be able to touch on every element of e-commerce. So whatever you want to know, let me know, and we'll get the right guest to help you out. Thanks, Joseph. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. It's a lot of fun.
You've been listening to Delivering E-Commerce. It's our passion to have on leaders and suppliers in e-commerce from around the globe, setting you and your strategy up for the next level. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Chris on LinkedIn at Chris Parsons, on YouTube at Chris Parsons Delivering E-Commerce, and on Twitch at Chris Parsons 1976. Till next time, this is Delivering E-Commerce.